There's something they don't talk about enough when it comes to life after 60, the idea that having a partner might not always be the best thing for you. Now, don't get me wrong, love and companionship are beautiful, but as we get older, our needs change. What worked for us at 40 or 50 might not be what's best for us now, and sometimes staying single can actually be the healthier, happier choice. Think about it. How many times have you heard someone say, "You don't want to grow old alone," as if being alone is the worst thing that could happen? But what if being being single is exactly what you need to thrive in this chapter of your life? Today, we're going to explore 5 reasons why staying single after 60 might be the better path for you. Not because love isn't wonderful, but because your peace, your freedom, and your well-being matter just as much. Let's start with the first reason, your independence. When you've spent decades caring for others, raising children, building a career, maybe even looking after aging parents, you've earned the right to put yourself first. Being single means you get to make decisions without compromise. Want to spend the whole afternoon reading a book? Go for it. Feel like taking a last-minute trip to visit an old friend? No one's stopping you. That kind of freedom is priceless, especially when you've spent so much of your life considering everyone else's needs before your own. And let's be honest, relationships, even good ones, require work. They require compromise. After 60, you might find that you simply don't want to compromise anymore, and that's okay. You've done enough of that. Now is the time to savor your own company, to rediscover what makes you happy without having to factor in someone else's preferences. Now, the second reason, financial peace of mind. Money can be a tricky subject in relationships, especially later in life. Maybe you've worked hard to build a comfortable retirement, and the last thing you want is to worry about someone else's spending habits or financial obligations. Or perhaps you've seen friends navigate messy divorces or inheritances that cause more stress than joy. When you're single, your money is yours. You control your budget, your investments, and how you choose to spend or save. There's no tension over different spending styles, no arguments about how much to leave the kids versus a new partner. For many people, that financial clarity is a huge relief. And let's not forget, divorce after 60 is more common than people think. Starting over financially at this stage can be incredibly difficult. Staying single means avoiding that risk altogether. Now the third reason, emotional energy. Relationships, even the best ones, take emotional work. After 60, you might find that you just don't have the same energy for drama, for disagreements, or even for the daily negotiations that come with sharing a life with someone. Think about how much simpler is life when you don't have to manage someone else's moods, expectations, or habits? When you can wake up and set the tone for your own day without worrying about how your partner's bad knee or grumpy attitude will affect your plans? That's not to say relationships can't be joyful, but as we age, many of us start to value peace over excitement. We've earned the right to a life that feels easy, light, and free of unnecessary stress. And that brings us to the fourth reason, rediscovering yourself. How much of your life has been defined by your role as a partner, a parent, or a caregiver? Being single gives you the chance to reconnect with who you are outside of those roles. Maybe there's a hobby you abandoned years ago, a dream you put on hold, or a new interest you've been curious about. Without the weight of someone else's expectations, you can explore those things freely. You can reinvent yourself, try new things, and make decisions based solely on what you want. That kind of self-discovery can be incredibly fulfilling, especially at this stage of life. Now, we've covered 4 big reasons why staying single after 60 might be the right choice for you. Independence, financial peace, emotional ease, and the chance to rediscover yourself. But there's one more important reason we'll dive into next that might surprise you. Because sometimes the greatest gift you can give yourself is the freedom to live life entirely on your own terms. So let's keep going and explore that final reason together. There's something liberating about realizing that you don't need someone else to feel complete, especially after 60. So many of us were raised to believe that being part of a couple is the only way to live a full life. But the truth is, some of the happiest, most vibrant people in their later years are those who've embraced the beauty of solitude. And that brings us to the 5th and final reason why staying single might be the best decision for you, the power of choosing yourself. Think about how often have you put your own needs last? Maybe you spent years in a relationship where you were the one always adjusting, always accommodating. Or perhaps you've been single for a while but still feel that quiet societal pressure to find a partner, as if being alone is something to fix. But here's the thing, choosing to stay single isn't about giving up on love. It's about making a conscious decision to prioritize your happiness, your peace, and your growth. It's saying, I matter enough to design my life exactly the way I want it. And that's a radical act of self-love, especially at this stage. Now, let's take a deeper look at what this really means. Have you ever noticed how some people in relationships seem to lose themselves over time? They stop pursuing their own interests because their partner doesn't share them. They give up on little joys, whether it's traveling a certain way, decorating the house just so, or even watching their favorite shows, because compromise becomes the default. When you're single, you don't have to dim your light to keep someone else comfortable. You can fill your days with exactly what nourishes you. Maybe that's mornings spent sipping coffee in blissful silence, or afternoons wandering through museums at your own pace. Maybe it's finally turning that spare room into the art studio or library you've always dreamed of. These might seem like small things, but they add up to a life that feels authentic yours. And let's talk about something that doesn't get said enough: the emotional labor of caregiving. If you've spent decades looking after others' children, aging parents, even a partner with health struggles, you know how exhausting it can be. Now imagine entering your 70s or 80s and facing the prospect of becoming a caregiver again because your partner's health declines. That's a very real possibility in later life relationships. Choosing to stay single means you're less likely to find yourself in that position. Instead, you can focus on maintaining your health, your vitality, and your independence for as long as possible. And if the time comes when you need support, you can choose exactly the right kind, whether it's hiring help, moving to a supportive community, or leaning on friends and family in a way that feels balanced. Here's another aspect worth considering: the freedom to redefine connection. Just because you're single doesn't mean you have to be lonely. In fact, many single seniors report richer social lives than their coupled friends. Why? Because they have the time and energy to nurture all kinds of relationships, close friendships, community ties, even meaningful bonds with younger generations. Think about the women in the Golden Girls modeling with friends who truly get them, sharing laughs and support without the complications of romance. Or the growing trend of conscious living communities, where single seniors create intentional neighborhoods built around shared interests and mutual care. These setups often provide the best of both worlds: companionship when you want it, privacy when you don't. At the end of the day, this isn't about saying relationships are bad. It's about recognizing that they're not the only path to fulfillment, and for many people over 60, they might not even be the best path. The goal isn't to be alone out of fear, but to embrace singlehood as a positive, empowering choice. So if you've been feeling guilty for enjoying your solitude, or if you've been wondering whether you should try dating again just because others think you should take a moment, ask yourself, what do I really want? Because this is your time, your chapter, and you get to write it exactly how you please. Now, let's bring all these ideas together and talk about how to make this mindset shift work for you in practical, everyday ways. You might be thinking, this all sounds wonderful in theory, but how do I actually embrace single life in a way that feels joyful, not lonely? That's the most important question, because staying single isn't about missing out. It's about designing a life so rich and fulfilling that you don't feel like anything is lacking. Let's start with something simple but powerful: your daily routine. When you wake up in the morning, what's the first thing that would make you smile? Maybe it's brewing that special tea blend your ex never liked, or playing your favorite music without headphones. Perhaps it's the luxury of reading the newspaper cover to cover without interruption. These small moments add up. Try this. For 1 week, intentionally design each morning around and what pleases you. You'll be amazed at how these little acts of self-prioritization shift your entire outlook. Now, let's talk about your space. There's magic in arranging your home exactly as you want it. That chair by the window where you love to read, move it into the perfect sunlight. Those family photos? Display the ones that spark joy, store the rest. Maybe paint a wall that bold color you've always loved but never dared to try. Your environment should reflect you, not the compromises of shared living. Here's where it gets really exciting: rediscovering old passions or finding new ones. Remember that thing you loved before life got busy? The painting, the gardening, the dancing? Now's the time to reclaim it, not as a hobby, but as a vital part of who you are. And if nothing comes to mind, that's even better. Take this opportunity to explore. Always wanted to try pottery? Sign up for that class. Curious about birdwatching? Buy the binoculars. There's no one to roll their eyes or say, that's not practical. It's just you and your curiosity. Now let's address the elephant in the room: social connections. Some people worry that being single means being isolated, but it's actually the opposite. You get to choose how and with whom you connect. Start small if you need to. Join a book club at the library, strike up conversations at the community garden, or become a regular at the senior center's coffee hour. The key is to focus on activities that genuinely interest you, not just places to meet potential partners. And here's a beautiful secret. Solo adventures can be transformative. That trip you've been putting off because you didn't have a travel partner? Take it anyway. Many retirees find that traveling alone, whether it's a cruise designed for singles or a quiet week, at a lakeside cabin leads to deeper experiences and unexpected friendships. The same goes for local adventures, that new restaurant, that museum exhibit, that afternoon matinee. When you do things alone, you meet the world and yourself in new ways. Now let's talk about something crucial, dealing with other people's opinions. You'll inevitably hear well-meaning but frustrating comments like, "Don't you get lonely?" or "You should really find someone." Here's your new response, delivered with a warm smile. "I'm actually really happy with my life as it is." You don't owe anyone an explanation. Your contentment will eventually silence the skeptics. Finally, and this might be the most important point, practice gratitude for your independence. Each evening, try naming 3 things you appreciated about being single that day. Maybe it was eating dinner exactly when you felt hungry, not when someone else wanted to. Maybe it was spending an entire Saturday in your pajamas without judgment. Or perhaps it was the profound peace of knowing every decision was yours alone. This simple practice rewires your brain to see singlehood not as lack, but as abundance. As we wrap up, I want to leave you with this thought. Society has spent decades telling you that being coupled is the only path to happiness. But you know better now. You've seen how solitude can mean freedom, how independence can mean self-discovery, how choosing yourself isn't selfish, it's sacred. So here's to your next chapter. May it be filled with exactly what you want, whether that's peaceful mornings, exciting adventures, creative bursts, or simply the quiet joy of a life lived on your own terms. If this resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. What's one thing you're looking forward to about your single life? And if you found this helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe for more content celebrating life after 60. Remember, this isn't about giving up on love. It's about falling in love with your own company. Here's to you and the wonderful independent life you're creating, one joyful choice at a time. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. This all sounds lovely, but isn't being single at this age, well, lonely sometimes? And you're absolutely right to ask that. Let's be real for a moment. No life path comes without its challenges. But here's the beautiful truth. Loneliness and being alone are not the same thing. In fact, some of the loneliest people are in unhappy relationships, while many singles have built incredibly fulfilling social worlds. Let me tell you about Martha, a 68-year-old widow who initially feared being alone after her husband passed. At first, she filled her days waiting for her children to call, until one morning she realized she was treating her loneliness like a problem to solve rather than an opportunity to grow. That's when she started what she calls her friend dating approach. Every week, she reaches out to one acquaintance for coffee, that neighbor who gardens beautifully, the woman from her book club who made her laugh. 2 years later, she's got what she calls her tribe, 5 close friends who travel together, celebrate birthdays, and even have standing Wednesday night dinners. This brings me to an important point. Building intentional community. Unlike romantic relationships that often happen by chance, your friend circle after 60 can be carefully curated. Start small. Join one new activity where people gather regularly. Maybe it's a weekly walking group at the mall, a watercolor class at the community center, or volunteering at the local theater. The key is consistency. It's through repeated, casual interactions that the deepest friendships often form. Now, let's talk about those tougher moments, holidays, anniversaries, or when you're under the weather. This is where having systems matters. Create your own traditions. Maybe Thanksgiving becomes a Friendsgiving potluck where everyone brings dishes from their childhood. When you're sick, arrange a reciprocal care pact with a friend. You'll check on each other and run errands when needed. Many communities also have senior helper programs where volunteers can assist with temporary needs. Here's something surprising research has shown. Single seniors often maintain better health habits. Without a partner's influence, they're more likely to stick to their own exercise routines, eat according to their dietary needs, and keep regular doctor's appointments. Take advantage of this. Create health rituals that work for you, whether that's morning yoga in your living room, daily walks while listening to audiobooks, or meal prepping your favorite healthy dishes without compromise. Let's address another concern: safety and practical matters. Being single doesn't mean going it completely alone. Modern technology offers wonderful solutions: medical alert systems, home automation for security, grocery delivery services, Build relationships with trustworthy professionals, a good handyman, a reliable accountant. Many seniors create village networks where neighbors look out for each other. Now, I want to share a liberating perspective: the gift of solitude. There's a special kind of personal growth that only happens when we spend quality time with ourselves. Think of it like this. When you were younger, you probably had friendships that deepened during sleepovers or long talks. Now, you get to have that same deepening relationship with yourself. Try keeping a journal or take yourself on dates to explore what truly delights you now. You might be surprised how your tastes have evolved. For those who worry about legacy, consider this. Single seniors often have more time and energy to contribute to their communities. Whether it's mentoring younger people, volunteering for causes you care about, or creating art, your impact can be profound. I think of 72-year-old Raymond, who started teaching woodworking at the community center after retiring. He's now taught over 200 kids basic skills, and several have gone into trades. "I may not have grandchildren," he says, "but I've got a whole workshop full of kids who call me Pops." If you're feeling hesitant, try this experiment. Give yourself 3 months of truly embracing single life. During this time, say yes to every social invitation that appeals to you, pursue one new interest, and create daily rituals that nourish you. At the end, check in. How do you feel? Many people find they enjoy this lifestyle more than they expected. Remember, choosing to stay single isn't about closing doors. It's about walking through the door that leads to your most authentic life. It's saying yes to mornings that start when you want, yes to decorating with that quirky art you love, yes to spontaneous adventures, yes to peaceful evenings exactly as you like them. In our final segment, we'll talk about how to handle family expectations, navigate dating if you choose to, and hear more inspiring stories from singles thriving after 60. But for now, I'd love to hear from you. What's one advantage of single life you've discovered that surprised you? Share in the comments below. And if you're enjoying this series, don't forget to like and subscribe. Until next time, remember, your life isn't missing a chapter. It's simply telling a different, equally beautiful story. You know, there's a moment that comes for many of us after 60, a quiet epiphany where we realize we've been measuring our lives by someone else's ruler. Maybe it happened when you found yourself explaining again to well-meaning relatives why you're perfectly content alone, or when you caught yourself smiling at the simple pleasure of an uninterrupted afternoon exactly as you wanted it. That moment is powerful because it means you're beginning to define happiness on your own terms. Let me tell you about Eleanor, a 71-year-old who spent 40 years in what looked like a perfect marriage. At her husband's funeral, amidst the condolences, she had a startling realization. She was grieving not just his passing, but the decades of her own unexpressed self. Today, 5 years later, she runs a popular blog called The Late Bloomer's Guide to Solo Joy, where she documents everything from her first solo cruise to the liberation of turning her formal dining room into an art studio. "People keep asking if I'll date again," she writes, "but how could I trade this life where every decision is an act of self-discovery?" This brings us to perhaps the most beautiful aspect of single life after 60. The freedom to rewrite the rules. Without societal scripts about how couples should spend their golden years, you get to design days that truly reflect who you are now. Maybe that means converting a spare bedroom into the crafting space you always dreamed of, taking up tango lessons not to meet someone, but because you love how the movement makes you feel, planning theme months where you deeply explore a passion, July for jazz music, August for French cooking, creating your own holiday traditions. Who says you can't have champagne and lobster on a random Tuesday? Here's something remarkable I've noticed about thriving single seniors. They become architects of connection rather than passive recipients of whatever companionship marriage provides. They build rich, multidimensional support networks. The friend who's their concert buddy, the neighbor who joins them for morning walks, the former colleague who shares their love of vintage films. Unlike the sometimes limiting package deal of a spouse, these relationships allow different parts of yourself to flourish. Now, let's talk about something rarely discussed: the creative potential of solitude. Studies show that older adults who live alone often demonstrate increased creativity and problem-solving skills. Why? Because every day presents opportunities to rely on your own resourcefulness. That leaky faucet becomes a chance to watch YouTube tutorials and discover you're handy after all. Planning a solo trip teaches you to trust your instincts in new ways. Even quiet evenings alone can spark unexpected insights or artistic expressions you might not have discovered in constant company. For those who worry about growing old or alone, consider this: independence builds resilience. The single seniors I've interviewed consistently report feeling more confident about aging because they've maintained decision-making skills and self-reliance. They're also more likely to have established support systems before they're needed, whether it's researching senior living options or having frank conversations with family about future care. Here's an exercise that might surprise you. Try writing your own single advantage list. Every evening for a week, jot down one way being single served you that day. Maybe it was having the energy to volunteer because you didn't spend the morning managing a partner's medical appointment, saving money by eating simple meals you enjoy rather than elaborate couples' dinners, the luxury of an entire weekend spent exactly as you pleased. You'll quickly create a powerful reminder of why this life suits you. To those who say, "But who will take care of you when you're old?" I say, look around at modern senior communities filled with vibrant single residents. Notice how many have chosen to age among friends rather than relying solely on family. With proper planning, powers of attorney, long-term care insurance, intentional communities, having a spouse is far from the only path to security. As we near the end of our conversation, I want to leave you with this thought. Your relationship status isn't just about who shares your home, it's about who you're becoming. The woman who rediscovers her love of painting at 65. The man who learns Italian and spends summers in Tuscany at 70. The person who finds profound contentment in mornings with their dog and coffee, evenings with books and music, and days filled with exactly what nourishes their soul. So here's to you, to the courage it takes to live unconventionally, to the wisdom of knowing what truly fills your cup, and to the extraordinary freedom of writing these golden years exactly as you choose. If this series has resonated with you, I'd love to hear your story in the comments. What's one way single life has surprised you with its gifts? And if you found this helpful, consider sharing it with someone who might need to hear this message today. Remember, the most important relationship you'll ever have is the one you have with yourself, and that's worth celebrating every single day.